Okay, the first thing is going to be the calipers, but before I take them all the way off, I've got them loosened, and it's going to be a Torx bit or a Allen bit, and it's a 3/8 Allen bit, and they're pretty much everything from the 60s to 70s the same size, and it just goes in there like this, and you just ratchet it off, and that's how you take those off. The threads on this are here. They aren't here. This is just a slip fit. There's no threads on the end of that bolt. The threads are in here to hold it in place on both ends. And then this is the bleeder valve, and then there's the connection right here. I don't know if you got good light. I'll get some light. There's a connection right here, which is what connects to the brake line, which connects to the hard line on the frame, through the frame, and then goes up through this line to the master cylinder. So we're going to change that because that's old. We're going to change this because it's old. And we're going to change this because it's completely seized up and it won't go anywhere. And I only took a couple of taps and she's loose. Okay, she's loose in here. But now, what's going to happen when you take that loose? Gravity. Fluid's going to come out of that line. So we need to find something to catch fluid in. So there's your drain pan. Good old GMC hubcap. So let's get this pulled off. We'll finish pulling this off and we'll work from there. And once you get a couple twists on it, it'll come right off. It'll just come right off and spin right off because, because, okay, now these are, see how that's got that hole in it? That's kind of there for a reason, guys. It's got a, so now all we gotta do is we just pull this, and we pull the caliper off. And see, she's already dripping. All right, now, since the brake line is off, which you can't trust, after 20 years, you can't trust a brake line. And pull this, there's your two through bolts, and then she just pulls right off. And that's what your caliper looks like, and that's your connection where that hose was, and you can see how grody they get. Then again, that's your bleeder valve right there. That's your bleeder valve. And then that piston is just completely gone. She's seized up. She won't give an inch. So, and there's a core charge. This is worth $10. So don't throw it away. Put it back in the box with the caliper you just bought and take it back to the store and get your $10. And if you want to help it drain, you can just pull the cap off it so it's not pulling any vacuum. But yeah, she's grody. We're going to clean that up. But she's pretty gone. You can see that's been sitting in there. If that tire date has anything to do with this, this has been at least 20 years. Okay, so there's no vacuum involved in this, and no gravity, and it's not dripping. That fluid is out of that caliper. It's not out of the hose. So there's nothing getting to the hose. There was nothing, so that's probably not a good sign. Okay. All right, so they're both broke loose, but when you move them, this is a very common problem. When you move them, the lines are moving with them. So that means that they're not spinning. See how there's the movement going on? So the lines are not spinning well inside because there's crud and dirt and stuff inside the lines right here where the line goes inside that nut. So it's just a matter, I use WD-40. You can use PB, you can use oil, you can use whatever, but we'll get in there and get some lubrication in there, bring it out a little bit, put it back in. We'll just work it out so that we save these lines. This and this, both 9/16. And once you get them off, you can just lay them right there. They'll be fine. They ain't gonna hurt nothing. It is not dripping anything anywhere. So now it's just a matter of taking these bolts off, and we'll just hit it with the impactor, take it off. Just like that. Save those bolts, those nuts, because we need them later. All right, and that is all there is to it. Just the two nuts hold that in place. Then you just reach in here, and you still got fluid here, so you want to be very careful. Oh, I forgot. Very important. You have to disconnect the brake pedal rod from this inside the cab. So we'll do that. Okay, and once you have it released and it's just held on by a cotter pin, and it's just a slip fit on that deal, and that's all there is to it right there. just to make sure they look exactly the same. Everything's right side. This is driver's side. Okay, so they come with new bolts and hardware, and they come with the springs. And that's the spring to hold that goes inside there. Brake pads in to hold the retaining spring to hold the brake pads in. Okay, and so I also got new lines. This is the rear line, and then this is there is the right side and left side, and this is the right side, which right side is passenger side, and this is the left side is driver's side. So we're gonna change these out too. But just you always make sure once you got them in, and I got the other one right here, that's for the passenger side, you just make sure that everything is exactly the same, and they are. So we're going on with this. Okay, and yeah, I know these haven't been cleaned, but I don't care. I ain't doing this for cleanliness. I'm doing this just to have brakes enough just to make this thing stop so I can drive this out of the garage this weekend. That's all I'm doing. All right, and then we're just gonna wiggle them where they need to go. That's all we're gonna do. Just gonna slide them on top. And the squealer again, the squealer always goes in the back. All right, it's real simple. There's a set of pads that have the holes in them that this goes through, that this fits through like that from the back side, and then there's a set of pads that has the clip on it and has the squealer on it to tell you when your brake pads have gotten to the point where they need to be replaced. So the squealer is always going to the back, and the brake pad with the hole always goes on the front side. And the bleeder is always standing up top. All right. You just wiggle it around like the other side until you get it started and get it in place. And you get the thread started, and then you just tighten it down. And then your new caliper is in place. All right, and we're just going to do it loosely on the top first. Just kind of get it in place, and then we'll go to the bottom, then we'll tighten the bottom. And it'll thread itself in, but like I said, the threads are in the back and not in the front. This is designed to float pretty much. And then we should be good with this. All right, tight. I'm just working back and forth. The bottom one is just to where it kind of tightened up just a little bit. So we're going to finish doing this. All right, so that one is hit the bottom. Okay, so here now we're going to put the squish on it. Okay, and that's all it takes. It doesn't have to be steroid jerk. It just has to be tight because it'll set itself. Now this is a little off because there's room for everything to move in here, but once we get Miss Christine out here tomorrow to bleed these and start working on these, then we'll be good to go. And again, I'll bring you in here. So you have your bleeder right here, and then you have, this is where your new line is going to bolt to, this bolt right here, and it's just in there loose. And so we're going to have to get, now we'll change these out right now, and these will have to go into the inside of the frame with the line wrench and break that loose so that we can spin it out. And this is just held on by a clip from the backside, and we'll pull the clip and we'll pull the whole thing out, and I'll show you how to do this. Okay, this is going to be the hardest part of the whole thing, is getting that out of that fitting. Now here in the hole where the frame, where the new one goes in, there is a washer that goes in that groove, right, that holds it in place. And then there's also this piece, that goes on the threads from the inside. Okay, so that's a bear. It just remember that on the outside there's a little washer, and I just took a screwdriver and I drove it around till I got to the top, and then I took it from the top and I pushed it off, and then this comes off. Now I'm going to have to get a hold of this. I'm going to have to get a hold of this fitting, which is the end of the old one, and you can use my line wrench and get that broke loose without twisting that up. And then it's just a matter of weaving the new one into place. But this could be, if you didn't know that little lock washer was in place, you could spend hours trying to go from the inside of the frame to try to get a hold of that nut right there, because that is in a weird angle where you can't get to it. So, but that's the trick. Knock the washer out, push it out, bring it up on top of the frame. There's enough flex in that line, you ain't going to hurt that line. And then we're going to get a hold and carefully pop that fitting loose. Remember telling you how there was a washer on the outside of the frame? Well, this is what that is. This is that washer that's on the outside of the frame. And then we need this piece, which screws in from inside the frame and screws onto these threads, just like that, and puts it in place. So I've got my washer that's on the line on the inside. See how we are right here? I got my washer, that nut to go on those threads on the inside on that line. I'm going to bring it out here. I'm going to tighten it here, and then just thread it finger tight on the inside and give it a little. But the thing is getting that fitting, that small fitting tight. The trick is getting that small fitting tight before you bring it back into the frame and set it. Okay, so it's easier to do it while it's here, because there's a nut right there you can grab a hold of, and you can tighten it right here. Because they said this was the passenger side, and it is. Not. This is not the passenger side. Okay, now, you don't know why it's not the passenger side? Because this tan just sitting out this, and this should be facing the other direction. These don't move. These are set in place, and these set in that hole a specific way. Okay, so it's the wrong side. So we're going to take it back off. But it was marked wrong. It was marked wrong, which does happen. And when it comes around on the backside, it's, see where the hole is? So this is the wrong side. All right. So because it's got to go, this part right here, it's got to go in this groove right here. This groove on the backside, and then this bolts through it. So I think they marked them backwards. Let's pull the other one out of the bag and see if it's the right side. Okay, so this kind of stuff happens all the time. BH86 550, BH86 551. Tell me how this is. Tell me how this is a left side and a right side. They are exactly the same on both sides. So I only got one side tonight, so I don't have a passenger side. Got a driver's side. We'll put the driver's side on, and we'll take one of these back, and we'll get the correct one, because that's the wrong part. Okay, it is day 2, and we have our new master cylinder, and we have the second round of ordering of our brake lines, and we do have the correct one this time. You can see they're direct opposites of each other, right and left, driver side, passenger side. Those are all. Now the master cylinder came with 2 different length rods, and so that's why I'm glad I kept the original, so I know which one I'm going to use. So this one's going to be put up and used later if need be as extra. I did have to run out and get a master cylinder bleeding kit, a master cylinder bleeding kit. I don't know where mine is. I've had one in the toolbox for decades, and I can't find it. Maybe it went to California. I don't know. Okay, and we'll start the bleeding process. You basically just find the 2 fittings in the kit that fit the holes that you have, and all of them are going to be different. So you just find the one that fits yours, and it gives you 2 pieces of this hose in the kit. And basically what I do, or what I did years ago, and it lasted me for 30, is run it both up on there nice and tight up against the end so it doesn't leak. Then we're just going to snip this in half and we're going to wrap it up and put it in place. So the kit comes with a clip, and that's just to put the hoses in to hold them in place, just like this. All right, so that they are not wiggling. It's really a nice little setup. So we'll put this in place, and then we'll fill it up to about 3/4 of the way full, and then we'll start bleeding air out of it. Okay, I'll get you in here now. Basically now, like I said, I've snipped the hoses and I got them in there, and I got the fluid in, and I don't know if you can see, it's already bubbling. See the bubbles? Air is already escaping out of the cylinder, out of the piston that's inside that. You'll see it bubbling, and I haven't done anything to it. So it's the air, it's getting in there already. So basically, the only thing is to it is that I'm just taking the old big Phillips screwdriver, and there's a nice cavity in here, and I'm just gonna start. See, I'm just gonna start working. Let's see if I can get this to not splash everywhere. And we're just gonna work the bubbles out. And this is the bubbles you see popping, and the stuff you see doing is basically just what's in the system. All right. And I'm still getting bubbles back here in the back. But that's basically all you do to it. You just work it until you stop getting bubbles. Now, I'm still getting bubbles in the front coming out of this thing. The back one is pretty much done because it's the largest. But what I've always done, and there's a little bit of sediment in there. There's some junk in there from when it was produced. But what I've always done is, if I have time, I've let that sit. Just let this sit for 10 minutes. Do something else. Let it sit for 10 minutes and then do it again, because it will work air bubbles out of spots, not just by bench bleeding. And this is called bench bleeding. There will be stuff come out of this for the next 10 minutes. Little bubbles. As a matter of fact, one just went right there. So it's still got air in it. Let it settle. Let gravity do its job. And then we'll prime it one more time. And then once that's done, we can put the cap on it, seal it, and we can mount it on the truck. And I'll just show you. This is just those couple of pumps that I did. And that's how much fluid is down there in the piston now. So that's how much is come out of it's in the hoses, and it's in the, so there's quite a bit of room in that shaft where that piston is. This one right here, there's a lot of space in there. So just one quick couple of pumps with the piston may not get that whole thing filled. And if that doesn't get completely saturated and filled, you could have air in your system, which is trouble for you and dangerous. So just take your time with this. This is the heart of the system right here. So take your most time, be most careful, and do the most thorough job while replacing this master cylinder. Okay, she's been about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I had to add more to it because it was sucking air. So just like I said, take your time with this. I got another brake line to do, and then I'll get plenty of time for all the little air bubbles to get out and all the everything to do with gravity to work. All right, and this is what that little clip looks like. Now it's a little distorted now, but that's what it is. And when they put them in the factory, they put that groove, the opening to 6 o'clock, just like this in here, just like that. Okay, so it's just a matter of getting underneath it with a screwdriver, a small one, and just basically pushing it out of the way, because it's soft, but it's just there just to hold it in place, just like the new one is. That's actually beefier on the new replacement pieces, but that's that clip that goes right there against the frame. All right, and this is what she looks like once you get her up above the deal. And there's that spin nut that goes on the threads here from the back side of the frame to hold it in place. And we're just going to use a crescent wrench and a 3/8 line wrench, not open end wrench, a line wrench on this to break this loose. And I sprayed these last night with PB Blaster several times, so we're going to give it another hit, but then I'll... And again, like on this one, it's this one, these for these calipers actually, these for this caliper actually end up being a 7/16, but like the ones that were on the originals were 1/2 inchers, which I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Again, it doesn't have to be a steroid jerk, but you need to have it on there tight because it needs to crush the copper, brass, whatever they are, washers in between. And there's your seal. And that's how it should look on the back of the caliper. And like again, now that it's all tightened down and bolted up, you have plenty of room between it and the ball joint and all the mechanicals in the center, and plenty of room for it to move for the suspension travel. And now we need to do the other side. Now we'll do the same process on the other side, and then we'll hang that master cylinder. Okay, so that's how she should be. She's in there like she should. A little bit of movement. Got room for everything. Got room for everything to move. Everything's out of the way. Held out of the way here for steering, the whole 9 yards. So I left master cylinder, and she's been sitting for. I pumped her about 4 times. She's been sitting for 30 minutes. No more bubbles. No more bubblage. So we'll put the lid on it, and we're gonna hang this thing. All right, she's done. We did bleed the brakes, and okay, I replaced the calipers, the hoses, the master cylinder, and this garbage still came out. That was what was inside the hard lines. Just the hard lines going across the frame to the other A-frame over there. That's it. So, but to clear it all out and get it done, it took, there's just a little bit left in that. So you're going to need a whole jug of .3, and ew, that's Coca-Cola. But okay, now I just did the front. This is about the front brakes. I didn't do the backs yet. Okay, this is just, I just want to get this under its own power. Okay, she's finished. The front brakes are done. Now I know I didn't touch the back brakes because this isn't about taking it down the road. This is about driving it out on the street in front of my house down my cul-de-sac. I am not taking this out on the road. The tires on this thing are 21 years old. And I just had one explode in the shop. Okay, wow. The rear brakes are going to be for another day. So if you're still here, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that button, smash that bell. Tell your friends. Check out UncleBuckStuff.com for a little merch if you would like a hat or a t-shirt. Y'all have a great day. It's a great day today. Could mean new brakes in the morning. Y'all be good.